We've just received breaking developments in what's quickly shaping up to be one of the most dramatic and potentially game-changing legal battles in the history of NASCAR. With the trial now only 2 months away, the entire motorsport world is watching closely. Behind the scenes, tension is boiling over. The paddock feels uneasy, sponsors are growing cautious, and now, even NASCAR legends like Joe Gibbs, Hendrick, and Roger Penske are stepping in publicly, urging both sides to settle this dispute before it rips the sport apart. But what's really going on here? Why are some of the most powerful people in racing calling this case a ticking time bomb? And how could it completely reshape the business and future of stock car racing? Let's break it all down in today's deep dive. That's the sound of a storm brewing, not on the racetrack, but in the boardrooms and courtrooms that define who truly controls NASCAR's future. At the heart of this high-stakes showdown is something called the charter system, a system designed to bring stability to a sport that once ran on financial chaos. Before the charter era, NASCAR teams faced brutal uncertainty. Imagine spending hundreds of thousands of dollars preparing a car for race day, flying your crew in, tuning every part, only to fail to qualify and go home with nothing. That was the painful reality for smaller teams for decades. In 2016, NASCAR unveiled a solution that changed everything: 36 team charters. Each charter acted like a franchise license, guaranteeing a team's entry into every Cup Series race, giving them a share of massive TV deals, and allowing them to sell or transfer that spot if needed. Suddenly, owning a NASCAR team meant owning something valuable, tangible. Charters quickly began selling for millions. By 2024, some were worth upwards of $15 million each. But as the system matured, something else became clear. NASCAR had built not just stability, but control. The organization now dictated which teams could compete, how they could operate, and under what financial terms. And that's where the trouble began. In December of 2024, 23XI Racing, co-owned by NBA legend Michael Jordan and NASCAR veteran Denny Hamlin, joined forces with Front Row Motorsports to file a massive antitrust lawsuit against NASCAR. They accused the sanctioning body of anti-competitive behavior, claiming it had turned the charter system into a tool of monopoly power, one that locked teams into unfair contracts and stifled innovation. According to the suit, NASCAR's agreements were so restrictive that teams couldn't explore independent opportunities or negotiate better financial deals, something the plaintiffs argue directly violates the Sherman Antitrust Act, a federal law meant to protect free market competition. NASCAR's response? Swift and defiant. In October 2025, the organization fired back with a motion for summary judgment, asking Judge Kenneth Bell to dismiss the case entirely before it even reached trial. Their argument centered on 2 key points: timing and consent. First, NASCAR claimed that the statute of limitations for Sherman Act violations, which is 4 years, had already expired. Most of the actions being challenged, they said, took place between 2016 and 2019. Second, NASCAR pointed to a critical clause buried deep in the charter contracts, a release provision signed by every team that waived their right to sue over charter-related issues. In other words, NASCAR argued the teams had already agreed not to fight this battle in court. And then things got personal. In a fiery public statement, NASCAR accused Curtis Polk, Michael Jordan's longtime business manager and 23XI Racing executive, of trying to collude with other team owners to pressure NASCAR into rewriting its rules. The closing line of NASCAR's statement hit like a thunderbolt. Neither greed nor bruised egos justify tearing down an institution that generations of competitors have built. Those words split the garage in two. Almost overnight, the racing community began to polarize. On one side, those who believed NASCAR had too much control and needed reform. On the other, those who feared the lawsuit could unleash chaos that would damage the entire sport. Within days, some of NASCAR's most powerful figures filed legal declarations supporting the organization and defending the charter system. Roger Penske, one of the most respected voices in motorsports, explained that the next-gen car introduced in 2022 had actually reduced costs, leveled competition, and made the sport more sustainable. He even compared NASCAR's charter model to the one he helped establish in IndyCar, saying it provided vital long-term stability. Brad Keselowski, meanwhile, said that although the 2025 charter negotiations were tense, the final agreement was a fair compromise. He gave a personal example, pointing out that he raced in the SRX Series, a rival racing league, while still co-owning a Cup team, and NASCAR never stopped him. That, he said, proved the sport was not behaving like a monopoly. But others weren't so sure. Gordon Smith, owner of Hayek Motorsports, voiced concern that the lawsuit's uncertainty could scare away sponsors and hurt smaller operations who rely on predictability. And then came Rick Hendrick, NASCAR's winningest owner, with a chilling warning. If these contracts are torn apart, he said, we could unravel decades of hard work. Thousands of people, mechanics, fabricators, sponsors, track workers, could all pay the price. Even Joe Gibbs, caught in the awkward position of being close to both sides, weighed in. His Joe Gibbs Racing organization shares resources with 2311, one of the plaintiffs. Despite that, Gibbs joined others in calling for peace, saying, "The long-term health of NASCAR has to come before any short-term business win." And at the center of all this, Judge Kenneth Bell, measured, methodical, known for encouraging compromise over confrontation. In past rulings, Bell has delayed decisions to give both parties time to negotiate, a clear signal that he wants this resolved quietly, not explosively. Most legal experts believe he'll let the case go to trial in December, but he'll push hard for a last-minute settlement before then. Because the potential consequences? Massive. If 2311 and Front Row Motorsports win, NASCAR could be forced to sell off some of its racetracks, loosen its control over scheduling, and even allow the next-gen car to be used in non-NASCAR events. The teams are also demanding permanent charters, which would give owners guaranteed race entries and stronger financial leverage, essentially locking in their place in the sport for life. They're also asking for a greater voice in NASCAR's decision-making process, though exactly what that means and how it would work remains unclear. But NASCAR isn't backing down. In fact, they've hinted that if pushed too far, they might dissolve the entire charter system. That single threat sent shockwaves through the garage. Why? Because without charters, every team, big or small, would once again have to qualify their way into races every weekend. No guarantees, no financial stability. That's the nightmare scenario that's brought even rivals like Hendrick, Penske, and Childress together, united by fear of losing everything they've built. Right now, NASCAR stands at a crossroads. On one path, the lawsuit forces major reform, shifting power toward the teams, creating a more open market but risking financial chaos. On the other path, NASCAR holds its ground, keeping its iron grip on the sport but possibly driving away some of its brightest team owners in the process. And the rest of us? We're watching history unfold in real time. This isn't just a business fight. It's a battle for the soul of NASCAR. Who owns it, who shapes it, and who gets to define its future. As the December trial date approaches, every move matters. Every statement, every negotiation, every leak from the courtroom. Because when that gavel finally falls, it won't just decide the outcome of a lawsuit. It could decide what NASCAR looks like for the next generation. So stay tuned, because this story is only getting started. And if you want to stay ahead of the curve as this drama unfolds, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and ring that notification bell. Because the next update in this NASCAR courtroom saga, it could change the sport forever.